Welcome once again to this little journey we are taking on linear programming as a part of our course on convex optimization. Now, what I am going to do today, these are the two fundamental theorems of linear programming. A proposition first, which will help us to prove the fundamental theorem of linear programming, which has two components, that every feasible set, if it is really non-empty, it will have a BFS, and every optimal solution, if there is an optimal solution, there is an optimal solution which is also in BFS. Now, since most of you would be seeing this course through the YouTube, I would, and you have the facility of going back and forth, which is not possible in real time. So, it is very important that you look over these proofs which I will now carry out of these fundamental theorem, because in the proof of the fundamental theorem, the whole idea of pivoting, the whole idea of the technique of doing simplex method is inherent. So, I would request you that just do not look at this lecture once, but look at it 2-3 times. So, you get a hang of how the proof is done. It is those simple linear algebra, but it has slight it needs slight tricks. So, just have a look at them. So, I start with this very important proposition which is needed to prove the fundamental theorem of linear programming, which says that if X is a BFS, that is I give you a BFS, then X has at most m positive components, because the rank of the matrix is m, we can at most have a m cross m submatrix which is invertible, which is of full rank. So, there cannot be more than m positive components in the basis in the basic feasible solution, because rest the non basic part you are considering as 0, though some basic solution can become 0, which is the case of degenerate basic feasible solution, but it cannot be more than m. And the submatrix AIX, which we have done, which we have defined earlier in the last class or in the last lecture, that can be actually formed into a feasible basis matrix by adjoining some columns from the matrix A J set minus I x. So, let us get into the proof of this. So, I will write it down step by step. So, let k, as before, let k x is the cardinality of the set I x, which can also be symbolized like this, with this absolute value signs. Now, as X is a BFS, rank of AIX is nothing but Kx. Now, Kx is less than equal to m, since the maximum number of linear independent columns or rows you can have in this matrix is m. It has m rows and some columns and the say kx columns. So, the number of linearly independent rows that columns that you will have can not exceed kx. So, if x is a BFX, it is kx, so and that kx cannot exceed m. So, x is a BFS, this is by definition of BFX, this is true, and now that kx cannot be more than m, because m is the maximum number of linearly independent columns allowed, because the matrix rank is m. This is true since rank of the whole matrix is m. Now, observe that if kx is equal to m, then we are through. The most important question is what happens when kx if kx is strictly less than m, and that is what we are going to look into. Now, what is this matrix AIX? It is a matrix formed of columns A1. I am just, because we have assumed without loss of generality that the first kx columns belong to the matrix AIX. So, this is the matrix AIX and all of these are columns of the matrix. Now, from the matrix A, construct the matrix B with m columns. So, this is B is a full rank m cross m matrix. Now, these B1, B2, Bm, these are also chosen from M. These are all chosen from the set A. So, sorry, not the set A, I want to correct myself, chosen from the set from the matrix A. So, these are the columns chosen from among the columns of A, and you form a linearly independent set of columns, and then what you have is a full rank matrix. Now, so B is a basis matrix and forms a basis for the column space of A. You should know what is the column space of A. If not, just go and brush up your linear algebra a bit, because we need a bit of linear algebra, quite a bit, you see. Now, what does this show? It simply shows that the column A1 can be written as summation lambda I bi, I is equal to 1, sorry, m vectors. I guess I am quite adept at making mistakes, especially in these sort of things. Anyway, just a bit of fun on the way. And you see here, lambda i's cannot all be 0, because if all are 0, then A1 is 0, but I have said that the matrix A contains no 0 column. So, lambda i's cannot all be 0, since A contains no 0 column. So, let me assume for simplicity that lambda 1, let us assume this without loss of generality, let us assume without loss of generality W log. So, we assume lambda 1 is not equal to 0. So, what would happen? I can express now B1 in terms of B2, B3, B dot 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 Bm and A1. So, I can basically replace B1 in the expression in terms of A1. Hence, if I now make the new matrix, I will make a new matrix where I keep the A1 column, I will now change the matrix B a bit, and then I keep B2. Then basically what happens, I have just changed one of the vectors, this is called replacement theorem in linear algebra, that we change one vector, but you still get a basis. So, the rank of this A1 B2 dot dot Bm, this would still remain m, because this would now become linearly independent, because you would just write B1 in terms of A1 and that is enough, B1 in terms of A1 and the others. Consequently, this now becomes a basis for the column space. I can write A2 as mu1 A1 sorry, I is equal to 2, not 1, because the B1 is now replaced by A1. Now, can mu1 be equal to 0? Mu1 be not equal to 0? See, so all mu i's are not 0, of course, because A2 is not 0. Now, A1 and A2, A1, A2 dot 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 A1, A2, A3 dot dot A kx, they form a linearly independent set of vectors. So, A2 and A1 is linearly independent. So, you cannot have all the mu i's to be 0. So, mu from 2 to m. So, if all these are 0, then you have then mu1 cannot be 0. So, A2 equal to mu1 into A1. So, A2 would be linearly dependent on A1, which is not true, because A2 and A1 are linearly independent. Since, think over it a bit, A1 and A2 are linearly independent because they are from the matrix A I x. Mu I is not equal to 0 for some I is equal to 1 to, sorry, I equal to 2 to m. For some I between 2 to m, this is not equal to 0. Okay, that is one step. So, what I am able to do now, I can replace say B2, because mu1 would be, of course, has to be 0. So, I assume that mu2 is not 0, so and the rest is 0. So, what you can do, if mu2 is not 0, you can replace B2 in terms of, you can replace B2 and express it in terms of A2, A1, B2, B3, B4 dot 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 Bm. So, means now I can make a new matrix by altering the columns of B, that is A1, A2, B3, Bm, and the rank of this matrix would become M. So, we can repeat the procedure. So, we have in our hand, in our disposal, kx columns of A kx. So, what we can finally have, finally by repeating the process, now B kx plus 1, this indexing, and Bm, this is of rank M. Now, let us now our new basis matrix, is B hat, which we give as follows. Is A1, A2, now of course you have this, not sorry, I should drop this. So, you have this B, and rank of B hat we have just shown is M. So, B is a square matrix, M cross M full rank matrix. So, this implies that determinant of B hat is not equal to 0, fine. Now, X was a BFS. Now, xi I, let me set this xi I equal to xi for I equal to 1 to kx, and xi I is equal to, basically I should be more nicer writing, like instead of writing like this, I can write like this, which is standard in books. Xi I is equal to xi if it is this, and if 0, if I is equal to. Now, if I look at this matrix, if I look at this, then what is B hat into? So, B hat is A I x and some other part. So, only the elements with A I x, the A I k x, this matrix. So, B hat actually has been broken into A I x and some matrix which I am writing, for example, n for the time being, or maybe better way to write it is say B tilde. Now, A I x, because it is a basis matrix and I have assumed that okay, I have at most k x, I know that there is at least, means there is at least k x for sure, k x non-zero quantities, right, because the rank is k x of A I x. So, and the remaining I am assuming 0. So, if I put this, then if I multiply this xi comes from my original x, the BFS. So, what would happen? Because in the original BFS from kx plus 1 to m everything is 0, and that is surely, because because of the rank I is equal to kx, kx is the number of non-zero quantities. So, what I have now got a basis matrix, and using the given BFS I have constructed new variable which is like this, which is exactly basically the original BFS. So, now I can show that B hat of xi, whose components are xi1, xi2, xi n, B hat of xi. So, up to beyond m it is all 0. So, up to m what is the situation? So, basically my original x is now divided like this, xi and 0. This xi is what I am now writing like this, xi and xi and 0, xi for some components, 0 for some components. So, part of the first m is non-zero and part is 0, and the remaining n minus m, the non-basic part has to be 0. So, B of xi, B hat of xi is anyway equal to B, right, because B of x is equal to B. So, B hat of x is obviously equal to B, but it is B hat of x is what? B hat of xi plus Aix of xi plus 0, Aix of xi is actually giving me nothing but B, right. So, you can easily prove this fact. Now, so this would imply, because B hat is having determinant not equal to 0, which means that B hat is an invertible matrix. So, xi can be written as B inverse of B, and of course, xi is greater than equal to 0, which implies that B inverse of B. So, that is exactly what we wanted to prove. So, not sorry B hat inverse. So, what we have done by adjoining matrix certain, so these Bx plus Bkx plus 1 dot 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 Bm, this part must come from the matrix A, which is quite natural. So, adjoining these things, adjoining these things to the matrix Aix, that is B hat, this is your B hat. So, adjoining this thing, these columns from the matrix Aj minus Ix from this matrix, I have been able to get a basis matrix which is also feasible. So, implies that B hat is a feasible basis matrix, and that is exactly what I wanted. Now, we come and prove the fundamental theorem of linear programming. So, hold your breath. Let us, that is the theorem, let us consider LP, the standard linear programming problem. If there exists x element of C, there exists x bar element of C, which is a BFS. C we know is the set Ax equal to B and x greater than equal to 0, the feasible set. X bar is a BFS. If there is an optimal solution then there is an optimal basic feasible solution. These two are the fundamental things. Once you know this is exactly the simplex method. This is simplex method will exploit this idea. So, we start again the proof. Those who are intimidated by the fact that so much proof is done has to realize that what we are doing is a piece of beautiful mathematics, and you in mathematics you need to demonstrate the statements you make. So, proof is, if you do not want to call it proof, do not call it proof, the French would call it demonstration. So, you are demonstrating what you have said, right, like giving a proof in the court of law. So, it is to the mathematicians, you are basically doing the same thing. You are giving a proof, in giving a demonstration of what you are telling, that yes, what I have said is correct in the framework in which we are working. Part 1. So, I am proving this part now. Okay. So, let x element of C be given. So, I have given you this. Now, x would have some 0 part, maybe have all 0 parts, maybe have it may be all the components are 0, all the components are strictly greater than 0, some greater than 0, some non-zero. So, we assume the most general case, and we instead of writing I x now, I will write I, because if I continue to write I x, the things will get too much complicated, right. So, I am just writing I, because you know that this I will correspond to this particular x, that is all j in capital J, which consists of 1 to n, which we have already noted earlier. So, it is an index of those components of x which has positive value, right. That is, if this is true and if this does not cover the whole of j, if I is not equal to j, then x j is equal to 0 if j is element of. So, it may be that either this is empty or this is empty, or that is immaterial. So, now I can partition A, the matrix, again into 2 parts. Again I am assuming, okay, the first part, columns, I columns corresponding to the indexes in the set I are in the first part of the matrix. That is just a assumption we can make without loss of generality. So, I have broken it up into, of course, you have to say it is more correct to put an x here, but just I am not doing, because the symbols would get quite complicated. So, just to avoid the complications in the symbol, but if you want to write I x, there is no harm if you write I x. Okay. If rank of A I or A I x is nothing but cardinality of I x or I, then x is a BFS and we are done. The interesting part starts when A I x or rank of A I. Now, let rank of A I is strictly less than the cardinality of I. This is the fun part, because this is the part where you are not having what you want, you know that x is no longer a BFS, but somehow I have to generate a BFS. So, let us see. I have to construct a point from the given data that will give me a BFS. So, what happens? Okay. Now, rank of A I is strictly less than I, which means that there exists lambda j, j is element of I, that is corresponding to those components, those columns, such that rank of A I is not cardinality of I. Okay. So, rank of A I is the maximum number of linearly independent columns. Now, if I take, so, but here there are I columns. So, the maximum number of linearly independent columns here is strictly less than the number of indexes in I. So, if I take all the columns in this, they form not a linearly independent set, but a linearly dependent set, as a result of which I can have this, where all lambda j's are not 0. So, again without loss of generality, because this is 0 on both sides, you can just change sides. Let us assume that lambda j is strictly greater than 0 for some index j. and define this process. This is called the what I am going to write down now is called the pivoting process, and this is what is used in the simplex method or in Gaussian elimination in that case. I should write R maybe uniformly. So, I will write x R divided by lambda R this So, for all j x j is j element of I, x j is greater than 0, but lambda j could be greater than 0, could be not, but you have said that there is only some index for which this is greater than 0. So, there may be more than 1 also. So, you collect all those ratios and take the minimum of that. So, because there are only finite number of such elements, the minimum would be 1 among them. Now, define. So, now I am constructing my BFS. Yj as xj minus xr by lambda r lambda j for j in I, and yj you set as 0 for j element of, you can keep on putting Ix, that is no problem, but just to avoid complications. So, up to this it is clear. Now, let us see what is the nature of y's. If you observe here, xr by lambda r, whenever lambda j is strictly bigger than 0, this is less than equal to xj by lambda j. This is the case when lambda j is strictly bigger than 0. So, you can immediately write, I can put the lambda j here and take it on the other side. So, I will have xj minus xr by lambda r lambda j to be greater than equal to 0. Now, if lambda j is equal to 0 or less than equal to 0, right. If lambda j is equal to 0, this is xj. So, xj is anyway greater than equal to 0 because xj is a feasible point, and if lambda j is strictly less than 0, then this would be negative. This would be negative. So, negative into negative positive. So, the whole thing would be non-zero. So, what I conclude from here is that yj is equal to is greater than equal to 0 for j is equal to 1 to n. So, the first step of y's feasibility is proved, an important step. So, now what I am going to check is I am going to write ay. Now, ay is what? So, I can divide it into two parts, j belonging to I and j belonging to capital J, but not to I, but for that yj's are 0. So, ay is nothing but, so j belonging to I now, and that yj is nothing but xj minus, so a. So, we are just writing down matrix multiplication. I would not go on explicitly how do you write things in matrix multiplication, because I am assuming you know this basic stuff. So, this is what you would have, and then you would have xr lambda can be taken out because it is fixed, it is a minimum value. But you see this part lambda j j, this part is equal to 0, but x j j this part, because it is feasible, right, and j is the only non-zero part. So, which means this is nothing but Ax. So, Ax is equal to Ax minus 0, but Ax is equal to b. So, Ay is equal to b, and y is obviously greater than equal to 0, what we have proved earlier, implying that y is feasible. Now, observed, what is the value of yr? Yr is xr minus xr by lambda r So, how many positive components y has? It has definitely the positive components of y. So, non-zero components of y at most is, there could be others which have the same value as xr. So, this would be at most is, it cannot be more than this. So, this implies that if I denote the new set I y, the set of y's for set of the components of y's which are strictly greater than 0, then this is strictly less than I y is strictly less than this, because this is maximum, this is equal to, so this is equal to less than equal to this and strictly less than this, where I y, if you are not feeling what I am writing, I y is nothing but j element of j such that y of j is strictly bigger than 0. So, if rank A I is equal to cardinality of I y, then y is a BFS, if not repeat the process, then y is BFS, if not repeat the process. Stop here and think what it is. It is just like an computer program, an algorithm. You take certain steps, you compute certain thing. If this happens, you stop the problem, stop the program, if not repeat the problem. So, it is basically a repeat until loop or a do while sort of loop. So, do this sorry not do while, is repeat until loop, repeat this process until this happens. So, basically if you observe this, this whole theorem gives you a very is of a very algorithmic flavor. So, now we are going into the second thing. So, by repeating this argument finite number of times, we will finally get a BFS, of course, because we have only finite number of components. Now, okay, how we will get the equality, you have to think of it, I will leave it to you as a homework. Now, we will go to the major part, that part B, let x be element of C and x is an optimal solution. Okay, that is good. Now, again I break up for x, I know that this is a solution. Now, then A I x I, so x I is the part of x whose all components are 0. So, I have formed a small new vector with all non-zero components of x, strictly bigger than 0 components of x, and that is of course equal to B, and let z naught is the optimal value. Of course, it is a finite optimal value, we are not that is obvious. So, z naught is equal to C transpose x or to C x, or in other words it can be written as C I, that is only those components of the vector C corresponding to these components in I x I, or you can write if you want. So, I am giving you many ways to write the same damn thing. So, A is of course partitioned as I, those columns corresponding to the index as I and those columns which are not. Again you see there is an algorithmic flavor. So, this is the first step, if rank of AI is I, stop, if not do. So, repeat until this is coming. Basically the new matrix that you are getting is assigned to the spot in the spot of the old matrix. So, the whole thing has an algorithmic flavor, and this is exactly the simplex method. The beauty is that the mathematics itself is generating the algorithm. Then stop, we are done. That x itself is a BFS. If not, then continue. Strictly less than the cardinality of I, which is also written as this. Now, again, so there exists, because now if I take all the columns of AI, they are linearly dependent. So, lambda I is a vector whose components corresponds to those indexes in J which are in I. So, basically I am writing, so this thing is nothing but writing this. So, this is more a matrix way, a compact way of representing this, same as this. This is same as this. See, I can always consider C transpose I lambda I to be greater than equal to 0, because if C transpose I lambda I is strictly less than 0, we can replace lambda I by minus lambda I, because the same lambda minus lambda will also work for this. So, now we will divide the whole thing into two cases. So, let me just write down case 1, case 2. Case 1 is this. You might be wondering why I am writing this. For all j element of I and this, or the case 2. So, this is all 0 and also this is occurring, and note if C transpose C I transpose lambda I is 0, then we are case 2, because sign of lambda I is immaterial. Suppose I have this, it does not matter if all of them are negative, also I can take the whole thing on the other side and make all of them are positive, or if I want to make some positive, I can make some positive. So, we can always get, so if this is 0, we are in case 2, because the sign does not matter. How did I write it? Case 100, 50. So, case 1. So, we are in case 2, right. Now, we will consider the expression, we will consider a y as constructed in A, y as constructed in case A. So, then we will compute the C of y, that is C I y I, because on the other part is 0, you know, it will be same as C j x j, j element of I minus x r lambda r C j lambda j. So, basically you have C I transpose x I minus x r lambda r summation, or you can write it more compactly, this is nothing but C transpose I lambda transpose I. Now, this if I know to be 0, now this is nothing but the objective value z 0. Now, if is equal to 0, then it implies that C of y is equal to z 0. Now, this y can be assumed without loss of generality by looking at the case A, y can be assumed to be the BFS, because y has been constructed. If it is not a BFS, we will again apply the same thing that we applied on x on y and get a BFS. So, finally, we will get some y. So, let us take this y to be the BFS. So, y can be without loss of generality considered a BFS. So, Cy is equal to z 0. Now, what would happen if C transpose I lambda I would be strictly bigger than 0? Then this would be a strictly bigger than 0 quantity, which means this would imply C of y would be strictly less than z 0, but y is feasible, that we have already proved or in the part A. This would imply that z 0 is not the optimal value. which is a contradiction. Okay. Now, we show that case 1 is not possible, because if case 1 is possible, we will show that the problem is unbounded. So, let us construct some y, but this is not the y that we constructed in A, we are now constructed in it like on our own. So, this is the standard construction. This theta is just a non-negative quantity. I have nothing to do with the original one there. Okay. Now, A of y can be written as summation in the same way yj aj plus yj aj, where I have partitioned the indexes over I and j not in I. So, this will I am applying for j here. So, this part goes to 0, and so what I will have is summation xj aj j element of I minus theta summation lambda j aj j element of j minus, not j minus I is gone. So, it is j minus I. Basically, this part goes to 0. So, I am just now analyzing this part, and this part breaks into these two. Now, this is nothing but b and this is 0, which you know. So, this is b. So, now if theta is positive, okay, and lambda j, because in this particular case lambda j is in the case 1. So, lambda j is chosen to be negative. In case 1, lambda j is less than equal to 0 for all j. So, means this is becoming positive, negative, negative, positive. So, this is anyway positive, right, and yj is this part is 0. So, y vector in this particular case, which of course I should write this y to be depending on theta. So, this y is greater than equal to 0 and ay is equal to b. So, y is feasible. So, let me try to compute the optimal value with this. So, let me compute the z C transpose y, which will be summation j element of I Cj xj minus theta times summation Cj lambda j. Now, in case 1, Cj lambda j had been considered to be strictly bigger than 0. So, this is strictly bigger than 0, this is greater than equal to 0. Now, this is my z0 minus theta times C transpose I lambda I. Now, this is strictly less than 0. Now, this thing depends on theta. So, z naturally is depending on theta, you can put a z theta, does not matter. If you put y, in this case this whole, all these components are joined up into a vector called y theta. So, if theta goes to plus infinity, because this is now for the case 1, this is now positive, the whole thing is negative. So, if theta goes to plus infinity, which I can obviously take, this whole thing goes to minus infinity. So, if theta goes to plus infinity, so moving along this direction, z theta goes to minus infinity. So, if the case 1 holds, I can show that I can create feasible elements y theta. So, I can take y theta to be a vector consisting of this, of the form x 1 minus theta 1 lambda 1 x, suppose I has kx number of elements, cardinality of I, kx minus theta 1 lambda kx and then 0 0 0 0 0. This is my y theta and this is this y theta I am operating on here, right. This you can write this also as y theta if you want, does not matter. So, what I am telling that I can create a sequence, I can show that if I increase theta, then I can get a sequence of points y theta which on which the objective values keep on decreasing and decreasing and decreasing and decreasing without bound. So, this would imply LP is unbounded. So, case 1 cannot hold because I have assumed there is an optimal solution. This would imply LP is unbounded and hence case 1 cannot hold. So, this means only case 2 holds and we are done, that there is of optimal BFS, and with this I end my talk today, and I would request you that when you see this on the YouTube, repeat the run once again and carefully go through the arguments. Thank you very much.